Okay, this is part 5 of quotes from Ayn Rand. I got a lot of quotes from Ayn Rand. She's the greatest female philosopher who ever lived. Okay, so here she's talking again. This is from her book, Romantic Manifesto. We're continuing with stuff from Romantic Manifesto. She says, "The goal of my writing is the projection of an ideal man." Okay. She says, "A man is an end in himself. A novel should have a hero who has a goal, and then there's obstacles for him to obtain his goal, and he has opponents and he has setbacks. There's a clash and a conflict. A novel should have tension, a plot, a theme, a climax, and then resolution of the climax. The novel is the ultimate form of art, and it is a dramatized, selective recreation of reality. The main character must be in pursuit of a goal, striving for some good purpose." She says, "Literary art is at its highest with Victor Hugo and Fyodor Dostoevsky. They are masterful for conveying the thought. Character is revealed by action and dialogue, not by narration. Introducing a narrator into a play is a wedge for destruction of the theater. Modern art is anti-art. It is vandalism of art." She's right, absolutely right. She called modern art as a colossal fraud, she said. The Emperor's New Clothes. "The glory of man's mind is the integration of abstract concepts into a unified whole. Modern art is a disintegration of reason and man's minds. The father of modern art is Immanuel Kant. Destruction of definitions leads to a destruction of logic and reason. Art is the indispensable medium for conveying a moral ideal. Art is a concretization of metaphysics, of metaphysical ideals." Ayn Rand, she liked the ancient Greeks and what you would call Greek art, but she didn't like the gargoyles on the cathedral. She felt they were a negative view of the world. Actually, I would say the gargoyles meant to represent some of the evils and dangers of the outside world, whereas inside the cathedral was, to be with God, so to speak, in God's place. And with the high vaulted ceilings representing like the forest canopy and aspiring to the light coming in from above, from the heavens. Okay, Ayn Rand continues, "I dedicate my writing to the glory of man." And I also want you to see what she's saying here. She's also saying something different than, Johann Sebastian Bach. She recommends Johann Sebastian Bach's music, which is intensely Christian. It's church music. But she herself, Bach would say, every composition of mine is to the glory of God. But what Ayn Rand is saying, my compositions are to the glory of man. And in some sense, what Ayn Rand was doing was she was responding to the idea of altruism, socialism, and communism, who say man means nothing. He's just a talking monkey. And she's saying, no, man is the highest thing there is on this planet Earth, okay? All right. And she didn't claim to be an atheist, but like I said, she's got a lot of Christian tendencies in her. Okay. She says World War I marked the fading of individuals. World War I was a disaster, suicide attempt on the part of Europe, and it was the end of all that. And it led to this loss of idealism. She said World War I was the end of romanticism in literature, and it was followed by a dominant literary style that she calls naturalism. She hates naturalism because it does not believe in heroes. Naturalism tends to portray average or even low-life people in vulgar situations who lack volition. They're all just meaningless, random, pawns of fate. She finds it disgusting. Naturalism claims that heroic, smart men are so rare that they're not worth writing about. She says even what she considers simple-minded romanticism, almost classicism, somebody like James Bond, is a big improvement on naturalism. She really liked the first James Bond movie called Dr. No, but the second one called Russia with Love, she thought it sucked because it had, in a sense, become a parody of itself, mocking itself, because the directors were mocking James Bond rather than celebrating him. Okay, she says that naturalism consigns the great man to unreality. They say he doesn't exist. It demoralizes people. Naturalism focuses on mediocrities and suffering and failure and vice. It's a waste of time. It's anti-art. It's a descent from metaphysics to verbal photography, just describing something in an amoral way with no insight. The writer is left bewildered, doesn't know what to imitate. He's just a bewildered imitator. So naturalism stinks in every way. She describes it as the aesthetic vacuum of the 1900s versus, she said the 1800s were aesthetic light years ahead of the 1900s. It's all true. She did her homework. She knows what she's talking about. She doesn't like Zola because he's another naturalist. The naturalists, they all stink, okay? She says naturalism in literature is depravity. Her goal is to portray the ideal man. And then she says, it is depravity to paint garbage cans and dead fish. We should only portray in art what we consider worth contemplating in real life. She said that Aristotle had said, fiction is of greater philosophical importance than history because history only shows us what was, but fiction shows us what could be. Man shapes himself in the image of his values, so viewing good art, or better yet, great art, gives intellectual fuel to the young creator. It shows him what is possible. And I would say this applies to, multiple different areas of life. Like, let's say you're interested in nutrition. Viewing Kempner and Pritikin and McDougall and Burkett and Esselstyn and, Campbell, guys who did heroic, great stuff, that inspires a young person to want to do good, heroic things, okay? Versus if you only see high-fat phonies selling out for money all over the place, and you're like, why should I do anything different? So young people need to have heroes, somebody to look up to, some role models to imitate at first, and then they'll develop their own thing. Okay, well, I hope you found that helpful.